Welcome to the Show Me Nutrition Training for Nutrition Program Associates. Join the Show Me Chef as he introduces you to the Show Me Nutrition curriculum and presents techniques and demonstrations to help you be successful with your Show Me Nutrition class. Show Me Nutrition is a comprehensive nutrition curriculum designed to impact healthy lifestyle choices and behavior changes. Show Me Nutrition supports the following: Missouri's Show Me educational standards and grade level expectations. Health themes including nutrition, food safety, physical activity, media influence, and body image. Grade levels designed for continuity. Age-appropriate content, activities and handouts. Family newsletters for pre-kindergarten through 5th grade students. Each grade level within Show Me Nutrition is aligned to state and national health standard objectives. Show Me Nutrition reaches a vast audience within and outside of the state of Missouri. 49 states have purchased and use the Show Me Nutrition curriculum. Let's take a look inside the curriculum. We use the phrase current USDA food graphic in the body of lessons and activities with the hope that extensive revision of the text will not be necessary in the future. When presenting this material to students, educators are to use the actual name of the current USDA food graphic. Knowledge and behavioral objectives for Show Me Nutrition are concise objectives that are aligned with national and state health standards. Nutrition program associates and teachers need not worry if they are initially unfamiliar with the material, because teacher references have been provided for them. Teacher references are background information to be reviewed as needed before teaching the lesson, and teacher references are included in the lesson. Advanced preparation directions are given when needed. Again, teacher references are included in the lesson. The core activities icon expresses that these are the activities to be taught first, if time is limited. The additional activities icon dictates that these activities are to be used only as time permits after core activities have been taught. Do as many food tastings as time, facilities, and budget will allow. Tasting food is fun and may lead to acceptance of unfamiliar foods. Provide small amounts of food to the students to try. Before offering food, check to see if any child has food restrictions for health, religious, or other reasons. The grocery bag offers alternative food tasting ideas to curriculum recipes and provides more flexibility for food tasting, especially if the educator is providing a food tasting for more than one grade level in one day. The time needed to teach each activity is provided under the title of each lesson. The first page of each lesson contains a brief review of the lesson as well as a reminder to distribute the family newsletter. The comprehension check is a suggested way for educators or classroom teachers to determine if the students have gained knowledge or acquired skills. Handouts reinforce the materials taught in class and, when placed on the family refrigerator, serve as a great nutritional reminders for families. Newsletters are a wealth of information for families, and many provide low-cost, simple, and easy recipes that caregivers and children can prepare and enjoy together. Let's take a look inside the cover of Show Me Nutrition. Beginning with pre-K, let's read about healthy eating. Picture books are used throughout the pre-K, kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade curriculum. However, you may find a book listed within our curriculum that is out of print or no longer available. When considering alternatives, it's important to choose the books appropriate to your young audience. Sarah Howard with the Daniel Boone Regional Library offers some suggestions for choosing the right book to read to your class.
The following are some read aloud tips for choosing and reading books aloud to children. The first thing you're going to want to do on this new venture is choose a book. That sounds kind of obvious, but you need to read a variety of books so you can choose the ones that you like. because getting books that you like helps communicate your enthusiasm, and enthusiasm can be contagious to kids. The kids will get excited about the book you're reading, and they'll be ready to share the next time when you come. Not only do you need to choose books that you like, you need to make sure that you're choosing books that are appropriate for the age group that you're reading to. If you're doing very young children, preschool level, you need to look for books with simple text and pictures. Things with good rhyme, rhythm, and predictability are excellent for this age group. When you get to the older kids, ages 4 to 6, you can get a little more interesting storyline, so to speak, a little harder concept, something that's going on in their life they love to read about. And of course, all kids love to read about things that they're learning to do currently. It might be tying their shoes, it might be going to school for the first time, it might be celebrating a birthday, anything that they can relate to their daily life. The other thing they love to see are animals portraying things that they're learning to do currently in their life, like an animal learning to put on clothes or tying their shoes or eating food or helping clean the house. If you're reading to older kids, you certainly can find some lovely chapter books. And when you do that, we love to do a thing called, kind of tease them a little bit. Start reading a story and then don't finish it so that they'll want to read the book themselves. That's definitely a great thing to do for kids that can read on their own. You're going to want to make sure that the story length is appropriate for the age group that you're reading to. If you're doing a 30-minute program, you can't read a 30-minute picture book to them. You need to break it up a little bit. You also want to make sure that the stories that you read kind of test their language skills. It's a great time to share with them new words that might not be in their vocabulary. Feel free to stop and define a word for somebody if you think that they might not understand it. Never change the text in a book. So if you don't think they'll understand a word, don't change it. For example, if you're reading a book about a bear and it says a bear lives in a den, take the time to explain that a den is similar to a cave. Don't just change the words. Remember that children read the pictures. So you're going to want to choose a book that has excellent pictures that follow along the storyline. You want pictures that support the story, and you want pictures that help the child understand the story. You also need to make sure that the book that you choose, the physical book, is big enough to allow the children to appreciate it. All the illustrations must be seen and appreciated by the group. Hardback books are much easier to hold than paperback books. So try, whenever possible, to choose hardbacks over paperbacks. It's easier for the children to see and easier for you to hold. If you're reading to older children and you do want to finish a book, make sure you can finish it in one sitting, especially if you're a visitor and will only be there one time. So you've got your book, you're excited about your book. In fact, you probably have more than one book because you're probably filling 20 to 30 minutes with your group. You're going to want to practice, remember, read the book first. I know that sounds silly, but books read silently are different than when they're read aloud. So make sure the story flows well and the words flow well and you're familiar with the storyline. Some books just don't read aloud well. For example, beginning to read books. They usually have very short sentences, very simple plot, and are very repetitive with a little glossary or a dictionary or notes to parents in the back. They're very difficult to use as read-alouds because they don't have a storyline. Their purpose is actually to help children learn to read. You're looking for a storyline. So once you've got that perfect book and you've practiced to your cat, to your neighbor, to yourself, that will allow you some ease of interaction experiences for the group. When you're actually up in front of the group, you're going to want to hold the book so the group can see the pictures. Now your best bet in this case is to choose a chair that's low but not too low. Most of your audiences will probably be sitting on the floor, but if you sit on the floor, they're not going to be able to see very easily. You're also not going to want to be on a high stool because then their little necks will crane up and they won't be able to see very well. So somewhere in the middle is the best place to be. When you're trying to share the pictures with the child, your best bet is to kind of plant your book in one spot. The audience will find a way to see the picture. In other words, we want you to avoid what we call the whiplash syndrome, where you're whipping the book around so all the kids can see the pictures and their little heads are moving and the book is just moving. So put your book in one spot so that the children can see it. If your group is very large and you need to take the time to show a side of the room the pictures, do it very slowly. And remember, a pause to you seems really long, but it's not that long for the entire group to see the pictures. When you first come into the room and sit down, allow your listeners a few minutes to settle down and get comfortable. Begin only after you have their attention and their eyes are focused on you. Introducing yourself is very helpful, as well as perhaps doing a little song or a little finger play to gather them together. You're going to want to introduce not only yourself, but the book. You've taken the time, chosen the variety of books that you want to share, you've practiced, and now it's the big unveiling. Make sure you state the title of the book and the author and/or the illustrator. Many books are written and illustrated by the same person. It is found that some of these books are the best that are illustrated and written by the same person. You might find it helpful as you're reading the title and the author to run your fingers along the bottom of the letters so that the children will pick up that you're reading those letters. Just a handy little tip to get them to understand how the reading process happens from left to right and top to bottom on the page. Make sure you hold the book so you're not impeding the audience's view. You can hold the book in the middle at the bottom and turn the pages at the top edge and then over. You're trying not to block the pictures with your arm at any time. You're in the middle of the story. Suddenly, you ask a question. Well, let's be careful about that. If you ask a question, make sure it relates well to the story and that you can keep the focus on the story. It's generally best to let the story speak for itself and at the very end, ask a question. For example, if you're reading a story about a pet, you probably don't want to stop in the middle of the story and ask the children what kind of pets they have, because you'll never get back to the story. Make sure you don't rush through the story. One of the most common problems for new readers is when you get nervous, you tend to rush. Another problem is your voice tends to get higher pitched. So be aware of these problems and take a deep breath. Slow down so the children have a chance to see the pictures and enjoy your storytelling. One of the things you might find helpful during your reading time is to, between stories, have a little song. For example, one of the traditional songs, Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, or even Do Your Ears Hang Low? Anything to give them a moment to refocus. It's kind of like a commercial break, but at the same time, you're allowing them to maybe physically move around a little bit and get their wiggles out. Some people find it helpful to have children stand up at least once during a 30-minute period and kind of do a little finger play or a little song and shake their hands and kind of turn around a couple times and then regroup and sit back down. It kind of gives them a different way to get ready to listen. The most important thing is for the children to have a good literature experience. You're doing a very important thing. You're sharing stories and literature with kids and getting them excited about reading and their reading process. Sharing a story, traditional, folktale, fairy tale, an original new picture book by an author, leads children to want to read about other things and other characters, and of course, to want to begin to read themselves.
The use of puppets can be an effective means of engaging your young audience. Sarah Howard presents some valuable techniques and recommendations for using puppets successfully.
Hi, my name is Sarah Howard and I'm from the Daniel Boone Regional Library. So you want to do puppets. Here are a few tips to keep in mind as you get ready to use puppets with young children. The first thing you're going to want to do is be comfortable, which sounds easier than it is. You need to make sure that you get a puppet that works for you and for your audience. And remember, puppets are real to the kids once you put them on your hand. There are a few things you need to work out. Over the years at the library, we've learned some of our common mistakes. So the first thing you might want to do is practice with a lovely pair of eyeballs. One of the most common mistakes with using a puppet with young children is that you aren't looking at your audience. The puppet needs to be pointed at the audience. If they're sitting on the floor, your puppet needs to point a little bit down so that they can see the eyeballs of the puppet. If you're sitting in a chair and your audience is sitting in chairs, you need to make sure that you're seeing straight ahead so that they can see the puppet eyeballs. Because you don't want them to suffer from seeing just this part of the puppet. Like, that would be like just seeing my nostrils. That's not a good puppet show right there. So you want to make sure that your puppet is approachable and visible to all the kids. The other thing that you want to think about is how you open your hand. Each syllable should be opened using your lovely little thumb, because think about it, when you talk, your chin goes down, your head doesn't go back. So one of the most common mistakes is the lovely puppet head bop, where you're going like this and you're saying, "Hey kids, blah, 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 blah," and they're not seeing any part of the puppet. So you want to make sure that you're opening and closing the mouth below, if possible, with the puppet that you're using. Now, some puppets do not have a mouth, so they might have to find their personality in other ways. Maybe they're very shy, and maybe they whisper to you, and you tell the kids what the information is that you want to get across. This little guy can look happy, pensive, he can cry, all that good stuff. Now, if you have the lovely talent of having voices, you're going to want to practice that part. Make sure you've got your voices consistent for the kids with your characters, so that when they talk, they've got a good voice. Hello there. Now, the other thing that you want to do is to make sure that when your puppet is talking, you want to be looking at your puppet. So, for example, you don't want your puppet to be talking out here going, "Hey kids, how's it going?" And you're making eye contact with everybody in the audience, because then they have two places to focus on. You want them to focus on the puppet. So anytime your puppet is talking, you need to be looking at the puppet. Let's say that you have two puppets, one on each hand. That takes a very, very talented person. What you're going to want to do is to make sure that if one puppet is talking, both you and the other puppet are looking at the talker, because that way your audience will be focused on the correct puppet. Hopefully that makes sense. As I said, puppets are real, so you have a lovely puppet called bacteria. So even if your audience is 4 or 5 years old, Back is real. Now, he has a huge mouth that you can do some things with. You can be grimacy, which is quite fun. He's got eyeballs that you can pop out to give him a little more character. And he's got fun little feet that can move when he gets distressed that you're going to wash your hands and put him down the drain as the bacteria. So make sure that your audience can see. The other thing that you're going to think about when you're working with a child audience is that kids do think they're real. And at a certain age, they are going to try to see if the puppet is real. So be prepared if you are walking through a crowd of kids with a puppet that there might be a little bit of tugging on a puppet. There might be a little bit of hitting on the puppet. And your best bet is to have the puppet respond, "Ouch!" when that happens, so that they realize the puppet is real. You have your puppets that you use for your programs. So for example, Show Me Chef. Now Show Me Chef might be different for everybody. This is a Show Me Chef here. And he is real to kids. And one of the fun things to do with him is to make his hat move if you can, open and close his mouth, and to make sure that everybody can see him. You also want to make sure that when you're not using the puppet is out of sight or on a puppet stand. These are not toy puppets for kids to play with. So once they once the puppet gets on your hand and it becomes a character, you want to make sure that it doesn't lose the character. Because the minute you let a kid play with it, it loses all of its original character. So you have your puppets that you use for your programs, and you have the puppets that kids can touch. So one of the fun things to do is to practice, as I said, and make sure that you're doing all of the correct movements and making your movements bigger and slower. So if you have a puppet that is going to go downstairs, for example, you're going to want to make that movement really big, going down the stairs. You're not going to want to go down the stairs. So anything that you can do, if your puppet is going to cry, you're going to want to cry. Never underestimate the puppet's stare. If you have a crowd and you're trying to get them involved and get their attention, never underestimate the ability to just have the puppet look at the audience. If you're not one for puppet voices, don't be afraid, as I said, to have the puppet whisper something to you and give the information to the folks that you're trying to impart, because sometimes that works out just as well. When you're starting to look for puppets, one of the things you're going to want to make sure is that the puppet will fit your hand. There are a lot of great puppets out there, but they're for children's hands. And if you're going to be going into classrooms and using them yourself, you want to make sure that your hand can fit in the puppet. And then if the puppet has arms that move, you can do both the mouth, and this little Show Me Chef has the ability to clap his hands. There are also little puppets you can buy with a little rod here, so you can actually be moving the mouth and the hand at the same time with a little rod puppet. You can also sew one on here if you'd like and just use a little stick and be able to wave and talk at the same time. So this is a lovely puppet because he's got legs and a body and hands and a mouth and a hat. And one fun thing to do with him would be to put something heavy in the hat, kind of stick up there, so his hat flops around a little bit more, and that gives him even some more personality. Because your Show Me Chef should be different than anyone else's Show Me Chef out there. So I hope you enjoy using puppets with young children. Remember, they are real to these kids. So treat them well, and they will treat you well as well.
Achoo is an example of a core activity. The objective of this core activity is to demonstrate to students how a sneeze or cough can spread germs. Musical food is an activity with the objective of giving students the opportunity to move, to be active, and to recognize foods from different food groups. The objective of tasting the alphabet is to encourage students to taste some of the fruits and vegetables from the picture book, Eating the Alphabet.
At the beginning with my kids, after I ask them about nutrition, introduce myself and say, my name is Mrs. Bartels, but guess what, kiddos? Since you're preschoolers, you get to call me Miss Amy. So I'll come every week and we're going to talk about all kinds of healthy things for your body and things that make you grow strong and tall and have good muscles. And one of the important things that we need to talk about are germs. Who knows what a germ is? And then the kids will usually give me some crazy answers. A lot of times they'll mention the word invisible, and that's one of the words that we're going to focus on today. So, kiddos, I brought a little friend with me. He's kind of gross, and he's kind of scary. Don't worry. Let me get him ready. He's a little shy. All right. And he's got a cold. Any of you have ever had a cold before? Achoo! Achoo! So I use the puppet to sneeze on the kids. Most of the time it gets lots of squeals, and then we take a minute and I say, okay, calm back down. I want you to hear what my germ has to say. And then I'll show them it's just water. I'm not really sneezing on you, because what would happen if I really sneezed on you? I would make you guys sick. So I will show them that I've just brought a squirt bottle with water, and a lot of times I've had kids that have gotten upset before when I sneeze. So it's a good idea to make sure that you show them that it's really not germs. And then I always set my puppet, because this isn't really a puppet that I typically interact with. I just bring it and do the sneezing or maybe coughing. I'll set him and I'll tell the kids, and they get a big giggle out of this too, that the puppet is good for watching out for nose pickers and finger lickers, because especially in the early elementary grades, kids like to have their hands in their faces, in their mouths. What we talk about is preventing germs and keeping your hands out of your mouth. So after I do the germ puppet and I talk to them about the proper way to do a sneeze or to cough, and then we demonstrate, achoo! And I'll sometimes have the puppet, and I'll use the puppet and try to say, his hands are too tiny, and the kids laugh about that. Then I have them do the sneeze into their elbow. And then we talk about good ways to get rid of germs. Talk about hand washing, and I'll go through the steps of hand washing with the kids. And we talk about using a squirt of soap, and not too much soap, but a squirt of soap, rubbing back and forth and making the bubbles on the tops, in between, and places where germs like to hide, like in between your thumbs. Now, how would you know if a germ is hiding there? And it's a good idea to help the kids understand invisible. So if the kids had said that before, you can bring it back and highlight the kid that might have said that word. It's always a good idea, I think, with the preschool age to encourage their answers. When we talk about invisible, I'll say, you can't see invisible. Our eyes are not strong enough, and germs are too tiny, so they like to hide. And I say, can you see them? What if I have a big magnifying glass? And then I'll say, no, you can't see germs even with a magnifying glass. And then I'll go around and have them hold their hands out and say, can you see germs? And they can't, and so then I'll show the magnifying glass and just show it on their hands like this to let them have just a second or two, and this doesn't have to take a whole lot of time. I typically, with a preschool class, have them sitting crisscross on the floor, and I'm sitting in a chair. So I'm real close and easy to them and accessible. When I'm in the front of a preschool class, I usually keep my props right on my lap. Now with the germ puppet, I keep it hidden in the bag, because if I bring it out right at the beginning, then the kids are completely focused on that, and it kind of ruins the element of surprise with the sneezing. This puppet is one of our props that we use. Mine has a hole cut in it so that you can fit a squirt bottle through the mouth. I know some of them don't, but it's just a real easy cut to make, and it's worked for me just fine. Sometimes the puppet gets a little bit wet, but you can let it dry out between times that you teach this lesson. Now, the magnifying glass was also something that was in our props, and it's not technically in our curriculum, but I found that it's a really good tool to use, or a prop to use, to show kids, again, about invisible. One of the hardest concepts with kids is they'll look at dirt on their hands and think those are germs, and it's the dirt that makes me sick. And one of the important things with preschool and kindergarten, because these lessons can be kind of interchanged depending on the abilities of your students that you're seeing, is helping them to understand that hand washing and properly taking care of sneezes and coughs are what's going to prevent those germs from spreading to their friends and making them sick. So after we do that, then I move into using the book. Now, the book is in the curriculum, germs, 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 just like the lesson. And one of the things that I've done that really helps me is I've made some cues on the back. So at the beginning, when I'm first learning to teach this lesson, having those questions, and a couple of my questions can just act as prompts for the kids. Where do germs live? Typically, the kids will tell me all kinds of places. Can we see them? And I'll say no, and I'll say, remember, not even with a magnifying glass. Then that helps me to tie in the picture on the front. And the picture on the front, the girl's using a microscope. Now here's where I use words to help the kids understand that germs have to be seen by certain people. Doctors and scientists have to look at germs so that they can help us know what kind of medicine to take if we're sick and help us to stay healthy. The things that we can do to stay healthy are washing our hands, eating healthy foods, getting enough sleep at night, and drinking water. And I usually have a water bottle with me when I'm teaching, and a lot of times in many lessons I'll refer to that water bottle just to show the kids that I'm modeling that behavior that I want them to do. So I'll read a couple of the pages of the book with the kids. For me right now, I have done this enough times that I have the book memorized, but I really think it's important if you can show the book like this, just so that kids can see the pictures. We're on the ground, we're in the air, we're germs, and we live everywhere. So take your time when you're reading the book, and I think it works really well to make it animated. Sometimes you have to get your silly voice on when you read a book like this to kids, just to capture their attention. There are some pages in the middle of this book because for pre-kindergarten, that's like 3, 4, and 5-year-olds, this book gets pretty long, even though it's a rhyming book. So I have paper clipped together the pages in the middle that talk about food safety. In this lesson, we're not going into the fact that foods need to stay in the refrigerator. That's for older grades, and it really just confuses the kids. What I want to do with this book is I want to cover those 3 main times to wash your hands. And then after I read the book, we stress those times: before, after, and if. And I make that kind of the thing that the kids repeat after me. So we need to wash our hands before we eat. Always before. And you can just really get in there and use your hands and be animated with little ones to capture their attention, to help them to learn the concept. And then there's a page in the book that talks about the kids don't wash and flush. And so I say, after we go to the bathroom, even if you're at home, and I'll ask that question to them, yes, even when you're at home, because that bathroom germ comes with you, even when you're at home. And then if you cough or sneeze, and I'll say, remember our germ guy, and remember how he sneezed on everybody? Ew, that was yucky. What's the right way? Achoo! And then I'll say, then your hands stay nice and clean. After I read the book, I bring back invisible again and tie that back around. And I say, I have a stamp. Who likes a stamp on their hand? Me, and the kids will all answer. And I say, well, this stamp is invisible, so how will you know if I put it on your hand? And then, I like to let the kids have an opportunity to interact as much as possible. It just keeps them engaged, because if I see a kid that's in the back and maybe they're fooling around with another kid, I'll try to call them out, not as a reprimand, but as a pulling them back into the conversation. And to me, that's a really important way to keep them engaged and talking again about focusing on the topic that we're talking about. So with the stamp, I'll ask them to put their hand on their head, and I'll stamp their hand. What I really am doing is 2 things with that. Number 1 is giving me a solid surface to stamp their hand. Number 2, I want them to be surprised when they pull their hand back down that there's nothing there. This stamp is just simply an ink pad with the glowing ink that we have in our kits. So I stamp their hand. Then we talk for a few more minutes, because I don't want them to remember necessarily which hand I stamped. So we talk for a few more minutes going back over those concepts. Hand washing gets rid of germs. What are the 3 important times to wash your hands? And we talk about them again. Before, after, and if. Before you eat, always wash your hands. Dirty hands, and this is again part of the book. Germs like to take a ride on a dirty hand into a mouth, and there's a rhyme in the book. And then I also say, after you go to the bathroom every single time, and then I'll tell them, if you cough or sneeze, now who wants to see the germ stamp on your hand? And I say, I explain to the kids, I have this light. These are something that we ordered that weren't necessarily a part of our kit, but it's a very concentrated light. So I stamp their hand. We've talked for a little bit, kind of distracted them, which was my point. And then I ask the teacher, or if there's a special child for the day, ask them to turn the light off. And we try to make it as dark as possible. And then I say, hold your hands both out like this. Do you remember which hand had the germ on it? Can you see it? Because remember, germs are invisible and they like to hide. And then I shine the light on their hand and they can see the germ, and the germ is the same character as my puppet. Then I'll say, how do we get rid of these germs? Washing your hands, and the kids always know the answer to that, and they feel proud of themselves when they're able to answer some of those questions that I ask. I do not take the time to have kids wash the hands, even though that's part of the lesson. It's a great activity, and I have used that sticky hands activity in an after-school program with a small amount of kids. But if you have 30 minutes and you're trying to get all of these concepts in, having the kids wash their hands just isn't a logical thing to do. So the stamp works really well. And then I typically will give each child a sticker. Now these are stickers that came from Fight Back. We can just go online and order those. Those are very easy, and they'll send you rolls and rolls for free. I always tell the kids in every grade that I work with, no stickers on your skin. Two reasons for that. Number one, you can have a child with sensitive skin and you don't want to put a sticker on because it'll hurt them. Number two, the main reason that I reinforce is you're going to be washing your hands sometime during the day and you don't want a sticker on your hand because it'll ruin your sticker. So they can either put it on, if they have a name tag, a lot of times in preschool the teacher will allow them to put it on the back of their name tag, or they can put it on their shirt or their knee, and a lot of times kids get a kick out of putting it on their knee. And then I hand out the newsletter. We have the brand new newsletters, black and gold, and I also have these that I use with my preschool that are the Spanish newsletters. So our publications do come in Spanish. So that's about it for Germs, 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 Lesson 1 with the pre-kindergarten. My advice or suggestion would be to relax, enjoy your audience. Spend a little bit of time with this pre-K age and realize that no matter how well prepped you are for your lesson, you're going to get hugs, you're going to get nose picks, you're going to get all kinds of distractions during your lesson. Just remain focused and realize that these are 4- and 5-year-olds. The concepts that you're trying to get them to understand are simple, but if you reinforce, and don't be afraid to say things several times during your 30 minutes with them, or however long you decide is appropriate. A couple of the resources that you can use, obviously the curriculum has all kinds of suggestions. Pick a lesson or pick an activity in those core lessons that you're comfortable with. If you're comfortable with the interaction, do it. If you're comfortable with reading a book, just focus on reading the book. If using the puppet seems like something that you're afraid to try, practice at home or practice with a coworker. There's lots of resources on our website that you can check. And thank you. Enjoy. Hello, my name is Amy Bartels. I'm with the University of Missouri Extension, a nutrition program associate in Camden County, and today we're going to do Lesson 8, physical activity called the grain food relay. Now typically I do this lesson paired with lesson number 2, which is my grain foods lesson, because in my particular schools I don't get all 8 lessons. I typically only get 6. So it is really okay to go ahead and pull things from other lessons, other weeks, and put them in where you see necessary. Don't feel like you have to skip those later lessons because they also have some great material. Now for this activity, a physical activity, grain foods typically with my younger kids is one of the difficult food groups for them to grasp. They get really confused. So this activity can really be good for repetition, helping them to understand what grain foods are. A lot of times I'll say foods made with flour, and that helps them to understand. Grain foods give us energy, so I would have already completed the lesson talking about grain foods give us energy, and now we're going to do a physical activity. So with that activity, I will break the kids into 2 groups and line them up, and I'll have 4 grocery bags, and then I've got food cards that have pictures of grain foods. These pictures come from the cultural foods cards that we have a set of that should be in your office. These cards have all grain foods that are easily identified. If not, they do have words and nutrition facts on the back. We won't be using this part for preschool. So I'll divide these in half, and about 10 cards each is plenty, and put those into each bag. Then after I've divided the kids into 2 groups, I'll line them up behind each bag and explain to them the object of our game is going to be to pull a card out of the bag and identify that to the rest of their team. And they need to then take that card and transfer it down to this bag on the other end. Now this is going to be kind of a mock of our classroom. What I don't want you to do is put the bags really close together. You need to put these on as far apart as you can because the whole object here is physical activity. And we are going to show the kids that they're using that energy. One of the things that I like to do is make something for them to do rather than just walk in between each bag. So they'll have to be listening while they're in their line and waiting for me to call out something silly for them to do. It could be march, it could be skip, it could be crawl on all fours. But what I want them to do is be doing some kind of physical activity between this bag and this bag, and they're going to be going as fast as they can. Now, once we get to all 10, which won't take very long with preschoolers, then we can do the game again and we can just do it from this end back to the other. As much as time permits, what your object of your game, again, and I'm stressing, is to give them physical activity. You want them to identify those grain foods, but you want them to do something that's making their heartbeat increase. At the end of this activity, just by a way of wrap-up, we'll talk about, again, the object of this lesson is grains give us energy. And so you want them at the end of this lesson or at the end of this activity to put their hand right here and to feel their heart beating. Hopefully by the time they have done a little bit of the movement, their heart's beating a little bit faster, and you can talk to them about the importance of getting 60 minutes a day of physical activity. So this is really a pretty easy one. It's good to incorporate into lesson 2 if you're teaching grains, or there's a lot of other great activities in lesson 8. So if you do have the opportunity to teach all 8 lessons, go ahead and use this one with it. The kids think it's a lot of fun and they always like the competition. Thank you so much. I hope you learned something.
Adventures in Nutrition is the Show Me Nutrition kindergarten curriculum. The objective of the core activity, Squeaky Clean Hands, is for children to learn the correct way to wash their hands and eliminate germs. One of the many physical activities in the Show Me Nutrition curriculum is Green Eggs and Ham. Bunny Dip Tasting Party gives students an opportunity to prepare and taste new vegetables while they practice good manners and teamwork.
Hi, my name is Amy Bartels and I work for the University of Missouri Extension, the Family Nutrition Education Program. I am going to demonstrate a core activity from the kindergarten Show Me Nutrition curriculum today, lesson 1. The activity is Spooky Germs. Now, this is going to assume that you've already done parts of your lesson, and this is the activity that goes with. For this activity, you will need the glow lotion, and you're going to give a drop to each child in their hands. So if I had a group of kindergartners sitting before me, I would just ask them to hold their hand out. I would place 1 drop in the middle of their palm and have them rub it in like they were rubbing in lotion. They can do whatever they want. I will instruct them to keep it away from their face, but the kicker is that you will find this when you use your glow light all over the children, and it can be quite comical for all of the kids and yourself involved. So they'll use the glow lotion. This is going to rub in. It's non-toxic and it is not harmful. I've taken the label off of mine, but this should be included with your kit, and it is not harmful and something that some teachers have asked me in the past, so it is safe for the kids to use. As a part of this lesson, you're talking to them about the technique of hand washing for removing germs off of their hands. So if this is not possible, sometimes classrooms don't have a sink available, so hand washing might not be possible. If you want to adapt this lesson a little bit, you can select 1 child to come forward and be your your special spooky germ demonstrator. Give that child a squirt. Have them rub it around on their hands. After you choose your one child or all of your children to do the germs, or to have the lotion, then I want you to turn the lights off. And if you have your big bar black light, you can use that, or if you have this one. Now for this activity, the big bar light is probably better. But you're going to shine that light on their hands, and sometimes you can shine it for other children to see on their face. Before I ever shine a black light, I make sure and ask the teacher and make sure that there are no health concerns for shining the black light. And if we're shining it around the face, I always ask the children to close their eyes. So if it's the child's turn, and I'll just demonstrate, I ask the kids to shut their eyes tight while I shine the light on their face. That way, if we have any problems with the black light, it isn't shining directly into their eyes. The other kids get a chuckle because sometimes you can see traces, and it'll show up bright purple on their cheeks where they've touched, particularly on their nose. And that's a great teaching moment to let kids know that it's a habit that we all have, grown-ups and kids alike, to put our hands in our mouths and our noses. This is one of the things that we're teaching in this lesson, and one of the concepts that we want them to understand, that putting our hands in our noses and our mouths is what spreads germs to other kids. Now there's an additional part to this activity, and I use an apple. This is a fake one, and kids always ask, so make sure that they know that this is fake. And I have previously put some of the glow lotion on before I go into the classroom and spread it all around. Then I can use my light and shine it, and it'll show up as little white specks on the apple. This is another way just to reinforce the importance of washing hands before we eat. And also you can tie in washing your fruits and vegetables before you put them in your mouth. This activity I always do with the germ sticker. I don't want to put the germ sticker on their skin for many reasons. One, that it might irritate their skin. Another reason is that they're going to wash their hands and it would ruin their sticker. So they can use their sticker and either put it on their shirt or they can put it on the papers. Now, because this is kindergarten, I've got the newsletter with me. This is what I pass out at the end of the lesson. This is newsletter for Adventures in Nutrition with the Show Me Chef for Lesson 1. It talks about germs, and there's always a recipe on the back that I highlight for the kids. Another part that we can use in this lesson is a coloring sheet. And what I'd like to reinforce with this coloring sheet with the kids is I want them not only to just color it for fun, but we're reinforcing some of the concepts here. We've previously talked about the fact that you can't see germs and they're invisible. What I want the kids to do, and I'll ask them to do when I'm holding up this worksheet, is to draw some of those icky, sticky, invisible germs. And if you've used one of the books along with, you can tie this back to the Germs, Germs, Germs book, or one of the other germ books that we have in our curriculum. So I'd like them to draw pictures of the germs swirling down the drain, or germs where they might hide on the hands. That helps kids to understand that it's important when you're washing your hands to get in between. Now, when you have your child and you've shown the glow lotion, if it's possible, have all of the kids wash their hands and then reuse your light to show them how they've removed all of that glow lotion and their hands are clean, just like they've removed the germs. If you have your one child for an example, then you're going to really show that his hands are clean or her hands are clean by using soap, water, and a paper towel to remove all of those germs. Another variation, a lot of times classrooms don't have a sink, or there simply isn't time to have children apply the glow lotion and wash their hands. You can have them use a simple invisible ink stamp their hand, and show them with your glow light so that they all get to participate again in looking at something that is invisible, that mimics what a germ would be on their hands. The main concept we're trying to reinforce with Lesson 1 and the germ lesson in both the preschool and the kindergarten age is the importance of washing your hands. Make sure that you're using any of these props to help it stick in their brains that it's important to wash your hands. Hi, my name is Amy Bartels. I work for the University of Missouri Extension Family Nutrition Education Program, and today I'm going to present a physical activity lesson from Lesson 8. This is the Healthy Foods Treasure Hunt. Now, the way that this lesson is written, we're going to use some food cards. These can be from all 5 food groups because by Lesson 8 you've already presented all of the food groups. So use your healthy food cards and you're going to hide them around the classroom, and the kids are going to search for them and name the food cards. After the kids have named, and really this is just helping them to identify all of the foods that are from My Plate, after the kids have named, I reward them with one of the My Plate or Choose My Plate stickers that are also with our curriculum. Now, if this is not a good option for you in your classroom, either you don't have the space or if you could not arrive before the children to hide the cards around, an alternative might be to use some of your food models. I brought a few to show, and these plastic food models are great and eye-catching for the kids and really help them to identify the different food groups. One of the ways that you can adapt this game is you can hide these around the room, and the kids can find these and put them into a bag or a bucket or something that you have in your office. If you don't want the kids to handle your plastic food, and I typically make it a practice of not letting the kids handle them for a couple of reasons. First of all, I don't want the spread of germs, and second of all, I don't want my food to get misused or broken because it lasts me the whole year with lots and lots of kids. So one of the alternatives that you might do is I just made just an easy little bag. You can use one of your yellow totes or just something that you have. And I do a variation on this lesson where I give the kids clues and I keep the food, just a variety in my bag, and I give them clues. Like I might say, it's orange, it's crunchy, and we eat the root of this vegetable. And I'll pull it out after the kids guess, and it's a carrot. And this is just a good way to help the kids with identifying without letting them actually touch, but it's still a game and it's fun. You can take that a step further because this is the curriculum that uses the chef, and you can use the puppet, and the puppet can help. And if you use a funny voice, that's always a great way to engage the kids and get them interacting with you. So the main purpose of this activity is getting them moving around the room by using the food cards and hiding them in different places and having them identify, because this is Lesson 8, all 5 food groups. You're really wanting to make sure that they understand what each food group is. Now, if I were in the classroom and using this, I may incorporate this with a vegetable or a fruit lesson and just give them a variety and help them to choose. In my particular schools, I only go up to Lesson 6, but there are some great activities in Lessons 7 and 8 that you can pull from as well. I hope this has helped, and refer to your curriculum if you're looking for additional ideas and things to do in your classroom, especially with using some of the props, because that always catches the attention of the younger kids. Thank you.
Fun with Food and Fitness is the title of the first grade curriculum. Students will recognize the 5 food groups in the Mother Goose Humpty Dumpty 5 Food Groups core activity. Poppin' Popcorn is a core activity to encourage physical activity that makes the heart beat faster. Tasting tossed salad with dressing is a tasting activity that encourages students to eat vegetables.
Hi, I'm Sarah Plackey with the University of Missouri Extension. Today we are going to discuss the first grade lesson 4, Wrapping Keeps Food Safe. The objective of this lesson is to identify how wrapping keeps food safe, moisture in, and keeps germs out. You can demonstrate with a real fruit. So this is a clementine. something with a peel is what you're going to start with. You could, if you had a food model, show them a food model with a peel would be okay. And then your last option, which you may have seen these around, the food model card. I like to bring a real food object to show the point of keeping the germs out from the peel, because you actually will demonstrate by breaking part of the peel open and showing your students how the germs are kept out. In the lesson, it says to talk about what happens when you would peel the fruit and leave it out. If you had a 30-minute to 45-minute class, you could actually demonstrate this by setting it out. Obviously, a banana would start to brown faster, so using a real fruit would show exactly what you mean by drying out or browning and what air does when the peel is off your fruit. Then you will start to explain to your students how we have food containers and how they keep moisture in and germs out as well. You show a photo of a cereal box, but I think more effective is a real cereal box. Is it good to have? You will demonstrate. A lot of children sometimes forget to roll down the inside of the package to keep your cereal from getting stale. Bring another container like a yogurt container. Explain to the kids how to make sure they snap the lid on. The last part of this lesson is to show them how to keep your bread dry, or from getting dry. You want to keep the moisture in by putting your bread into, it says a storage bag, so a baggie is sufficient to just give them a visual of putting the bread inside the bag. But again, you have to show them that sealing it up is very important so that there aren't any leaks. Otherwise, air is getting in there. And then we are going to begin with our washing fruit part. Now, you would probably start with showing them one of your fruit cards and go around the room, and I generally like to extend my hand, lean into the student and ask them the ways about washing your fruit, why we wash them, and demonstrate. Even if you have a plastic banana, you could bring a real fruit, or the cards are sufficient. They generally understand the idea. And make sure that you maintain eye contact. Sometimes I talk in a little lower voice to get their attention, and then wrap it up with discussing some fruits have peels on them, some fruits don't. Show the difference, but we want to stress to our students that both need to be washed and rinsed under water. Suggestion could be to wash as long as you sing your ABCs, and then your fruits will be thoroughly washed and clean. I hope this was helpful to you. Thank you very much. Hi, I'm Sarah Plackey with the University of Missouri Extension. We're here to present to you the first grade Lesson 5, Pass the Milk. We wanted to show you exactly how you play this game today. Definitely need an empty carton of milk. Don't start with milk inside. That never works well. You want to begin explaining to pass over the head and then between the legs, and the first person in line will then move to the last person in line until everyone has made it through. You want to demonstrate this to your classroom before you let them loose. Break them up into 2 lines, possibly 3 if it's a large classroom. This is really a great game for when you maybe can't get outdoors and you need to get some physical activity in your day. And pass the milk is a great alternative. This has been a demonstration of Pass the Milk. We hope this has been informative and useful in your classroom.
The second grade curriculum is titled Food Group Express. The objective of I Spy Safe Milk, I Spy Spoiled Milk, is to help children recognize the importance of keeping food packages closed and keeping cold foods cold, and also keeping milk cold. The Great Grain Obstacle course was designed to encourage physical activity using a grain theme. It could easily be adopted for all 5 food groups. A Taste of Yogurt is a tasting activity for children that presents other foods made from milk.
This is an exercise to get the kids stretching and to do some classroom activity. And the kids are going to form a circle or a straight line. They can do it either way. And the kids are going to be facing each other, and you're going to have the kids raise their right hands, and they're going to grab a hold of the right hand of another student. Then they're going to raise their left hand, and they're going to grab a hold of a left hand to a different student. And the object of the game is to get the kids to untangle without letting go of each other's hands. So they're going to be doing a lot of twisting and a lot of laughing and a lot of stretching to try to achieve this. So it's a really fun thing to do. Make sure you do check with your classroom teacher ahead of time and let them know you're going to do this activity, because it does take a lot of space and the kids can get a little loud. So we just to make sure it's an okay thing to do. It's a fun thing to do with the kids, and I hope you really enjoy doing it with your students. Thank you.
Throughout this video, MU Extension staff will demonstrate training activities from the Show Me Nutrition curriculum. These can be incorporated into training sessions with your staff.
Following the engine, the engine, the engine. We're following the engine wherever she may go. We won't be home till morning, till morning, till morning. We won't be home till morning because she told us so. Hip hop, reach over and touch your toes. We're out for fun, and this is the game we play. Come on, join in and sing your troubles away. Hip hop, reach over and touch your toes. We're following the engine, the engine, the engine. We're following the engine wherever she may go. We won't be home till morning, till morning, till morning. We won't be home till morning because she told us so. Hop right, hop left, reach over and touch your toes. We march along, and these are the words we say. Hop right, hop left, reach over and touch your toes. Oh, twiggly-dum, a twiggly-doody day.
This is the Pretzel Party moves. Say to students, before we can pretend to be pretzels at the party, I need for you to learn and practice your pretzel moves, so let's get started. Demonstrate and say, let's pretend to be straight pretzels. So stand up tall and straight as you can. All right, reach for the sky. Okay, good. Next move, demonstrate and say to students, now we're going to pretend that we're dipping the pretzel. Put your hands high in the air and swoop down like you're a pretzel, getting some dip from the bowl.
We get the full movement.
Do each one. Okay. Next one, demonstrate and say, now let's pretend to be twisted pretzels. Do the twist. Good job. All right, demonstrate and say to students, okay, I want you to mix up the pretzels. I want you to use both hands and pretend you're dribbling a ball. Dribble to the left, dribble to the right, dribble to the left. All right. Okay, next one. Now I want you to pretend to be a germ by curling up in a tight ball. This is called a germ squat. All right, and you bend down and you put your arms around your legs. Okay, good. Next, who can remember the 4 things that we do to keep germs out of our food? Clean, separate, cook, and chill. So for clean, I want you to pretend that you're cleaning a dish. Hold your hand out. With your other hand, act like you're washing a dish. Okay, this is going to be called the clean dish. Okay, next one. Now I want you to stop what you're doing and turn around. Just turn around with your back to everybody. Okay, this is called the separate, don't contaminate. Okay, very good. Now I want you to take your hand and put it on your forehead like your parent or caregiver does when they're checking to see if you have a temperature. This is going to be called check the temperature. Okay, next one. Hug yourself and shake like you're cold. This is going to be called the chill. Okay, now we're going to play a game. It's a lot like Simon Says. But in this case, if back says it, you don't want to do it. Okay, you don't want to do it. Okay, let's see how well you do. Chill. Dip the pretzel. Back says twisted pretzel. Very good. Mix up the pretzels. Oh no, germ squat. Separate, don't contaminate. So that's a demonstration of the movements that go along with the pretzel party.
So this is from the lesson, Beets, Broccoli, and Asparagus Coming Down the Tracks. Tell the onion and garlic that their movement for the soup are, put your right leg out in front of you, put your arms out in front of you, and then cross your hands over one another. While crossing your hands over one another, say shh, shh, shh. Then reverse legs and arms and do the same with the other arm and leg. These students should now be standing on one side of the pot. Eventually you will make a circle with all the students and do the actions 2 times. After doing it twice, tell students they no longer need to make the sh sound as the vegetables have been sauteed enough. They will need to repeat the actions when you point to them. Have all students practice the onion and garlic movement as this is repeated throughout the activity. Okay, we're going to start over here with the blue and purple vegetables. Tell these students to reach their arms high above their head and bring them down to their shoulders, and then do the onion and garlic movement. Okay, point to the onions and garlic that are spread out, and then have them all join in and do this action. So you got, there you go. Okay, at this time, all the onions and garlic and purple vegetables should all be doing the same repetitive action. Next, we turn to the red group. Bend down and touch your toes and then your knees 2 times. Do the onion and garlic movement. Okay. Watch the red group, and when the red group gets ready for the repetitive motion, everyone start the onion and garlic movement. Okay, now we're ready for the green group. Put your hands on your hips, bounce twice to the right, and then bounce twice to the left. Okay, everyone join in and do the onion and garlic movement. Now we're ready for the yellow and orange group. Jump high, jump low. Do this 2 times. High and low, and then everyone do the onion and garlic movement. Now it's time to do the white group movement, which is in our case the protein group. Okay, you need to turn around 2 times. Okay, now it's time for the onion and garlic movement. Okay, now everyone's going to act like they are a pitcher from the little teapot. So pour your tomato juice to the right, pour your tomato juice to the left. And then shake all around for the salt and pepper. There you go. Okay. Okay, now tell students we're going to all be doing our actions. We're going to bring the soup to a boil and do our actions very fast. Then we're going to bring them down slow and simmer. Okay, here we go. Okay. Sarah, Carrie, Candy, Becky. Okay. Let's see how fast you can go. Okay, let's slow it down. All right, now we have a good pot of vegetable soup. Thank you, food group players. Down by the station early in the morning, see the little red fruits all in a row. See the station master turn the little handle. Puff, puff, toot, toot, off we go. Down by the station early in the morning, see the little orange fruits all in a row. See the station master turn the little handle. Puff, puff, toot, toot, off we go. Down by the station early in the morning, see the little blue fruits all in a row. See the station master turn the little handle. Puff, puff, toot, toot, off we go. Down by the station early in the morning, see the little green fruits all in a row. See the station master turn the little handle. Puff, puff, toot, toot, off we go. Down by the station early in the morning, see the little white fruits all in a row. See the station master turn the little handle. Puff, puff, toot, toot, off we go.
Hey, my name is Larry Roberts with the University of Missouri Extension. Today we're working with the second grade curriculum and we're working with lesson 6, our protein lesson. And we're playing a game. It's called Beans, Nut, Fish, and Meat. And it's a cup game that the kids play. So the way we're going to play this game is the kids are going to clap 2 times and go beans, beans. And then they're going to tap their cup 3 times and go nuts, nuts, nuts. Then they clap once and say fish. And then when they say meat, they pick their cup up and they're going to hand it to the right side. So the kids are going to go beans, beans, nuts, 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 fish, meat. And once the kids get going on a good rhythm, you let them start going. And when a child messes up, then they're going to drop out. And the object of the game is the last one to have their cup is going to be the winner of the game. Now, anytime you're playing a game like this in the classroom, make sure you talk to your teachers first because it can be a loud game. It can take a little bit of space. So you want to check with your teacher prior to coming into the classroom to make sure this is going to be an appropriate game in your classroom. It's a fun game to play with the kids and the kids really enjoy it. And I hope you have fun teaching it to your students. Thank you very much.
Building My Body is the 3rd grade curriculum. One of the core activities in 3rd grade is Fun Facts Trivia. Fun Facts Trivia is a question and answers game where students review their understanding of the digestion process and body cues. Building Bone Pantomime is a physical activity where students recognize and participate in bone-building physical activities. Determining sensory differences between regular and low-fat or non-fat versions of the same product is the objective for Where's the Fat? Tasting activity.
Talking talking about the 5 food groups. What they are.
Good morning, my name is Teresa Bell. I work with the University of Missouri in the Family Nutrition Education Program, and I've come today to teach you about healthy choices and physical activity. And so one of my favorite curriculums that we use is Building My Body. And so I came today to explain some of the activities we do for Lesson 1. In Lesson 1, you have 6 nutrient cards. I start the lesson by reviewing the 2nd grade curriculum, the food groups, and we refer back to the My Plate poster. We discuss the different food groups and the jobs that those food groups do. And then we talk about how the foods in those food groups break down in our body to different types of nutrients. And it's those nutrients that do the jobs. And so I usually make up posters that I can take into the classroom. The visuals help hold the kids' attention. And I usually start with minerals, vitamins, and water. We talk about the different jobs they do. I give the kids a clue. I might say this nutrient makes up over half of your body. It helps your body systems work properly. It helps keep us hydrated. And then I will ask the kids, which of those nutrients am I talking about? Most of them will know that it's water. And we talk about how we get water from drinks, fruits, and vegetables. And so we also refer to the food groups that they will get that nutrient from. And then I go on to ask them another clue or give them another clue or ask them another question. I might say this nutrient group helps your eyes to see in the dark. Some of those will help build strong bones. Some will help your cuts and bruises to heal. And there's different types, A, B, C, and D. And then usually the kids can determine that I'm talking about vitamins. And we talk about how vitamins are in every food group. Then I'll go on to give another clue. I might switch over to the other board and talk about that this nutrient group turns into energy in your body. It's in the grains group, and it's going to give you energy to run, think, and play. And so each time I give the kids a different clue, and I might mention the food groups that that nutrient is in, and then from the boards they can see the different foods, and hopefully they pick the correct nutrient group. And then we go on to discuss the different jobs. And the second part of this lesson is when you go into talking about only 3 of those give energy. I do just introduce the word calorie to them to let them know that the way we measure energy in food is a calorie. And so with this part of the lesson, we focus that these 3 types of nutrients are the one that gives energy, that carries calories, and that the fats have the most calories. And so once we wrap up discussing all the different nutrients, the jobs they do, the foods that you find them in, we focus on the importance of physical activity. We add physical activity to this lesson by assigning each nutrient a physical activity to go with it. So we take about 10 minutes during the lesson. We go over each physical activity. Carbohydrates, we talk about give us energy to run, think, and play. So with carbohydrates, we jog. And we have physical activity cards that we will use with this lesson. And so each physical activity card I place in front of the nutrient that it goes with. This one is for minerals, like calcium helps your bones to be strong. So the particular activity to go with minerals is they stand up straight and tall. But this is the part of the lesson where we I usually divide the nutrients in half, and I go over the first 3 and the jobs that they do. We jog for carbohydrates, we rub our arms for fats, and with proteins we make the muscles. And I practice those 3 with them first to make sure they have those 3 down. Then at that point, after we do those 3 activities, we add the next 3. And so that's when I will do minerals, vitamins, and water. And the jobs that they do, the physical activities for minerals, it's stand up straight and tall. Vitamins, you make eyeglasses for vitamin A. Water, they'll turn around. Then we practice those 3. Then, after they have those 3 down, we practice all 6 of them together. That way it gives them a little time to remember the first 3, and then we add the second 3. Then the last 5 minutes of the lesson, we do all 6 of them for our physical activity. Thank you very much for watching the video. I hope the information is helpful to you and will be useful to you in your classroom.
Fruits and vegetables, dairy and grains. Add to that a protein food and you'll be on your way.
My name is Teresa Bell. I work with the University of Missouri through the Family Nutrition Education Program, and I came to show you how I do the Think Your Drink in the 3rd grade curriculum, Building My Body. I choose to do it a little bit differently than how the lesson plans go. I make up boards and I use sugar cubes to illustrate the amount of sugar in drinks. And so with this lesson, we refer back to the label reading lesson in 3rd grade, focusing on serving size in drinks. I also refer to the sugar in food. We teach the kids we want to limit sugars. It's a type of carbohydrate, and it's often in many of the drinks that we choose. How I start this lesson is I've picked 6 different drinks, the drink card activities, and I line up 6 students, and each one holds a drink card. We discuss the different drinks among the class, and then we refer back to our boards, and the board will give them a clue and show them the amount of sugars that would be in 1 cup of those drinks. I explain that in the drink cards, the serving size is 8 ounces or 1 cup for each of those, but some of the containers have more than 1 serving. So the first thing we do is, after we look at the cards and discuss the different drinks among the class, I refer to the board and we go to the first one, and I tell them that it's an essential nutrient with 0 teaspoons of sugar per cup. And then I let the class or an individual student guess which drink it is. After they guess correctly, we flip the cards up to reveal the drink, and we go through each one. For example, with this one, I would say this drink has protein, calcium, vitamin D, vitamin A. There's 7 teaspoons of sugar in 1 cup serving. And I hope that the kids will remember when we discussed about the milk group that those are the nutrients that are in milk, and hopefully they will guess the chocolate milk because it has more sugar than the white. And then we reveal the card showing that it was the chocolate milk that had the 7 teaspoons of sugar per cup. I go through all the different drinks, giving them clues, and I usually end this lesson up talking about the drinks that have more than 1 serving, like if it were a bottle of soda or a bottle of a sports drink, what would happen if they drank the entire container? For example, in the first illustration, the 1 cup of sports drink had the 3.5 teaspoons, but there's 2.5 servings in the bottle. So we go back and figure that if they drink the entire bottle, they get 9 teaspoons of sugar. And I usually allow one of the students to come and stack the sugar cubes to show the kids just how much sugar they get when they drink the entire bottle. And we do that with the soda too, and it just helps illustrate the fact that we get a lot of added sugar in the drinks. And the kids really enjoy trying to guess and match the sugar amounts to the drinks. So the kids get very involved in this activity. I hope this has given you an idea of how to do the Think Your Drink. Hope you will find it very helpful.
The 4th grade curriculum is all about choosing foods for me. Recognizing the effects of social influences received through the media is the objective of the core activity. What do you see on television? Students explore media messages and develop positive strategies to support a positive self-image and body size acceptance. Good Morning World is a physical activity that encourages students to breathe and stretch when they first wake up in the morning. Good advice for all of us. Design Your Own Trail Mix is a tasting activity that helps students practice planning and creating healthy snacks.
Do your body right. Make your day a better day. Go on, help yourself. It's gonna feel real good.
Start off with Good Morning World reaches up, Good Morning World, all the way to the sky. You're going to bend from your waist down to your toes. If you can't reach your toes, that's okay, I always tell them. Then you'll come back up, and this time you'll reach on your toes, so even higher. Good Morning World. You can repeat a few times if you like. You'll come down and stretch and bend to one side, and then straighten up and bend to the other side. Go ahead and straighten, bring your arms down. You can do this activity several times as time allows. And this has been Stretches with Good Morning World. I hope you enjoyed this and you can use this in your classroom.
Do your body right. Make your day a better day. Go on, help yourself.
Today we are going to go over the physical activity for 4th grade, Lesson 4, Torso Twist and Hand to Floor Touch. Remind your students to record their activity on their My Activity log. Also, whenever we do activity, refer to your My Activity pyramid poster and remind your students to get 60 minutes of activity every day. The torso twist and hand to floor touch. You begin with your legs apart, arms wide, and you will bend and twist over your body, touching your hand to your opposite toe and rise back up. You will repeat this 20 to 50 repetitions as you have time, and just continue. Remind them they don't have to touch their toes and they do not have to strain to get down and up. The twist and toe touch is pretty simple. I hope this has been helpful for you and really useful for your classrooms.
My name is April Miller. I am with the Family Nutrition Education Program through MU Extension. I teach out of Sheraton and Howard counties. I am here today to teach you guys about the interview with the germ in the 4th grade lesson. When you start to teach this, I like to go through the motions before we start the topic. We go through the cold, the temperature, grow, clean, food, and hot. When you do these exercises with them, I always like to go through them first with them and show them how to do it, and then they stand up and we go through them together. So for instance, when we talk about cold, we shiver. When we talk about hot, we fan ourselves. I will go through them all, and then we do them together, and then we start the interview with the germ. When we do the interview with the germ, I'll ask the class a question, such as, where do germs live? Then I let them respond, and then the germ responds, such as, the germ lives in a cold place. When I say cold, everybody should shiver. As we go through this, all the words will be used in the interview. Whenever the students hear the words, they are to do the action. Then, at the end of the lesson, they are to log their activity in the My Activity log. After that, we talk about what all exercises they did in the lesson. Then we'll review where the germ lives, what does he like the most, and things like that. I hope you find this information helpful and that you can use it in your own classroom. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Tammy Culpepper. I work for MU Extension through the Family Nutrition Education Program. This is April Miller here with me. She's also an MPA that works with the Family Nutrition Education Program. Sometimes when you get the opportunity to co-teach with other MPAs, it's a great opportunity to use because you can learn a lot from each other. Today the lesson that we're going to talk about is in the 4th grade curriculum. It is on body image, which can be a tough one to teach. The way this one is set up, I think it's not as threatening when you're talking about body image, so it's a little bit easier one to do. The lesson involves talking to the kids about their characteristics. This is where I would ask them first what a characteristic is and see if they understood. If they did, we'd just go off that. This is a lesson that involves a lot of participation with the students. You're going to have to let them communicate with you on this one. It's real easy though. All you need is a deck of cards, which makes carrying in things a lot easier on that lesson day. So you will have a deck of cards. One of the things you will do after you explain to them the characteristics, which can be anything, eyes, color of eyes, their smile, but also the inside. Their personality can be a characteristic, how big a heart they have, how friendly they are. This is where I would take the deck of cards and explain to them different characteristics that might be for that person. Like I could say, April, this one here represents your hair. This one represents your smile. This one represents your big heart, how easy you are to work with. This one here might represent the way that she's always thinking things through, her brain as well. This one here might represent the way she works well with others. This one here might represent the way her legs look or the way her arms are, so on. Then you would continue with making sure you give them several cards. And then you would ask, well, what happens if someone doesn't like, let's say, the color of her hair? So I would take a card away. At that point, you would tear the card in half. And then explain to them that even though this was one someone didn't like, look at how many you still have that are contributions to your body. So this is the point where you have interaction with other kids in this discussion as well. This lesson takes longer than you think because a lot of them will have something to say back to you about this. Like they might like their friend's hair or eyes, and this is a point when they like to talk about those things. I hope this helps you. Don't be afraid of the body image lesson. It's a good lesson. And thank you for watching. Thank you.
Good morning. This lesson is Don't Be a Loose Caboose, Get the Scoop on Advertising. Today I'm going to tell you a tall tale. A tall tale is a story about a person that has been really exaggerated or made larger than life. To exaggerate something is to make something unbelievable and unrealistic. When America was a very young country, the people who settled in undeveloped areas of America first told tall tales. Unlike today, instead of watching television or playing on computers, they would gather in the evenings and tell each other stories. Say to students. As these people moved from place to place, they would repeat these stories. As the stories were told and retold, the people would add onto the stories and really exaggerate them. The stories became larger than life, and these were called tall tales. Say to students, today I'm going to read you a tall tale about an American legend named John Henry who worked on the railroad. Read the book, John Henry, to students. If you're reading the book, read it first yourself and familiarize yourself with the story. As you go along and you go, oh, I don't have enough time in my class period to read that story, shorten the story, paper clip your pages together so that you can just read what you feel is important in the story and that the children still get the same message from it. The idea that we're trying to get across to the children is that advertising many times inflates and exaggerates things, and that it's not okay to do that. Okay, let's follow the instructional procedures. Say to the students, today we're going to pretend to be a salesperson. A salesperson is someone who sells merchandise or things or services. Merchandise or things are just like anything that somebody would want to buy. An example might be when you sell Girl Scout cookies or Boy Scout popcorn. The cookies and popcorn are the merchandise you're trying to sell. An example of a service is when your parents take the car into the garage to get it fixed. The mechanic at the garage fixes the car. This is called a service. Another example would be when you go to the dentist and he checks your teeth for cavities. This also is a service. When you have your lesson, if you'll notice up here, there are some key vocabulary terms. These are not terms that we want the children to memorize or anything like that. We just want them to be familiar with it because we're going to be talking about them throughout the text of the lesson. They have like one sentence definitions to them. So just be prepared for those. Kind of read it over first, get them familiar in your mind. When I do it, you can probably see that I highlight mine. You might want to circle yours just so that you kind of emphasize them when you're reading them. The point of this lesson is to teach the children about advertising, the difference between a lie, but we don't want to call it that, we want to call it a tall tale that's been stretched, and telling the truth. So the first part of the lesson, you're going to take the children and you're going to put them in pairs. You're going to give one group some play money, and I believe it's in Curriculum 5 of the Show Me Nutrition where you're going to find money that you can copy and cut up for yourself, or you can just find some play money at the Dollar General store. Okay, the broccoli, when I give the children the picture of the broccoli, maybe it will have carrots, celery, cucumbers. The children, I'm going to tell them they have to try and sell the other children with the money the broccoli. They cannot tell me any tall tales. So they might say to me, and give them this example, the broccoli florets are really nutritious. They're really good for me. They give me fiber. They have a lot of vitamins in them. I can boil them. I can steam them. I can eat them in my lunch fresh. So give them ways, kind of point them down the path that you want them to go, have them pair with their partner, and come up with an advertising strategy, which is one of their key terms, or an advertising plan. Will be simple for them to understand. So after they've got their plan, then hold your auction. You might call the first students up who have the carrots and ask them, okay, sell your carrots to the other students. Okay, once all the carrots and other vegetables have been sold, then flip sides. Give the children who had the pictures, the vegetable pictures, the money, and give the children who had the money the pictures. After you've done that, take the children who have the vegetable pictures aside and tell them this time they get to sell their vegetables, but this time they get to tell a tall tale about the vegetable. So maybe this time I might say that if I eat my broccoli, it was going to help me run really, really fast. It's going to help me jump over tall buildings and maybe even fly. In other words, these children are going to be creating tall tales about their vegetables. Then hold another auction. Now, if you notice, we limited the amount of money that the children have. They have 2 20s, 2 10s, and 2 5s. One of the things you might encourage the children to do is to work together with other teams and try and pool their money together so that they can buy the vegetables. Because you're only going to be selling 5 to 6 vegetables, and you're going to be having, your classrooms are going to be a lot larger than that. So look to see that the children are cooperating with one another, that they're working together. By limiting the resources that they have, this will help infuse that bond of cooperation. After you've collected all the vegetable pictures and the money from the children, hold up a picture of name brand cereal. Now, because we don't want to endorse any specific product here with Extension, they've created one for us that looks very similar to a name brand product that we might all know. Ask the children specific questions like, what about this box of cereal makes it look so inviting? What would make you want to buy it? What do you think the advertisers have planned? Try and help the children think by guiding them with some specific questions. Hopefully they're going to answer that the colors are brighter, that sometimes there's prizes in these packages, there's games on the back. Then hold up a picture of what would be a generic box of cereal. Ask the children if they can tell you about this picture. Then ask them to compare the two pictures. When the children look at this picture and they look at these two pictures side by side, ask the children which one they think might be healthiest for them, not which one looks the prettiest. Hopefully, we talked about the food label before, and someone will mention that we need to look at the food label. And that's the direction where you're going to want to lead the discussion with the children. That if they look at the food label is going to give us the facts about the product or the cereal inside of here, not the pretty pictures. Thank you.
Exploring the food groups is the 5th grade Show Me Nutrition curriculum. The Mystery of the Processed Potato is a core activity where students solve the mystery of the food label. The objective of Don't Spill the Beans is to provide students a chance to be active while helping them recognize many kinds of beans, peas, and lentils. Planning for My Protein Needs is a tasting activity that gives students practice planning meals and snacks that contain an adequate amount of protein for a day. This is a great tasting activity with emphasis on a variety of low-fat foods from the Protein Foods group.
Nutrients are good for me. Some help me do and some help me be.
Hi,
Some
I'm
help me
Tammy
run,
Culpepper.
jump and
I work for MU Extension through the Family Nutrition Education Program. This curriculum is the 5th grade curriculum, Lesson 6, Focus on Fruit. When I'm teaching this lesson, I like to start out with these cards. You'll find that you'll have your own ideas on ways to make it work. I made these index cards with the nutrient and the definition of that nutrient on the back of each one of the cards. So for the fruit lesson, it would have your vitamin C, your fiber, the 4 different nutrients that you're going to be working with for this lesson. One of the things that we do is a worksheet. So you want to make sure you have these with you. This worksheet has the 4 nutrients that are involved when talking about fruit. For me, I like the class to work with partners. I find that makes it a little bit easier. If you have a child that does not get it as well, they have a partner to work with. I base it all on the classroom. If the classrooms are set up in rows, I just have the first kid turn around to the second, the third one to the fourth. That way it doesn't involve a lot of moving of chairs or anything. Sometimes classrooms will be set up with groups, like groups of 4 will be sitting together. In that case, I let them work as a group of 4. I just kind of go with whatever the classroom is set up with. Makes it easier not to interfere with the teacher and interfere with having a lot of noise moving about in the room. This one here I let them do together. They have to match the definition to the nutrient. After they are done with this one, we usually will grade it. I use these nutrient cards to grade it just by reading. I will read a definition, they have to figure out which one it belongs to. It makes it feel like it's more of a game for them, not just a worksheet that way. One of the other things is to show them the vitamin C. So the strawberries and the oranges, these are the cards that we get from the Dairy Council. This shows the different nutrients. So in this particular case, I used the strawberries and the orange juice. You can see the orange one, without a doubt, is the highest in both of these with vitamin C. One is higher than the other, and we've already discussed in previous lessons about 100% of your daily value. So they can already see by eating with just drinking orange juice, they're getting 100%, but they can also see with strawberries, very high. So they get the idea that fruit is a very high source of vitamin C. These cards are great to use with almost any of the curriculums that we have because it does show the different nutrients, whether it's the fruit lesson or one of the other lessons as well. An added activity that you can do with the fruit that I find my classrooms and my teacher really likes is, I guess your favorite fruit is. One of the ways I do this is the first one I actually do with the teacher. It gets her involved in the classroom as well, plus the kids seem to always enjoy it. This worksheet is where you ask them different questions about their favorite fruit. For example, does it grow on a tree? Is it crunchy? Is it soft? The teacher would answer back all the questions till the very end. At the end, based on all the information, the student then guesses what their teacher's favorite fruit is. After that, the other two examples, I encourage them to ask a parent. So it's given kind of as homework. I have yet to find kids that do not want to do this. They love taking this home and asking these questions. Usually the next lesson, I will ask if anyone has learned anything new about somebody in their life. And this is a good way for them to say, yeah, I did not know my dad's favorite fruit was mango or whatever it happens to be. So it's a good communication with them as well for review for the next lesson as well. When finishing up, I always usually go over with the cards all the different types of fruit. These are just two examples of the peach and the avocado, but there's lots of these that we have, and so I usually will just name off some of the different fruits, which also puts different fruits in their head as well. And then to wrap up, I always make sure that I send the newsletter home that addresses their parents as well. This talks about everything we talked about in class. And on the back of it, there are recipes, and I find at 5th grade level, they love these recipes. Most of them will come back and tell you at least they have read it, or you'll get several that will have tried a recipe on the back of these. These are great to get our parents involved as well, but also for the kids too. Thank you. Hope this helps you. Just make sure that you have your copies and everything you need when you go into class, because it can be very frustrating if you have 12 copies and you need 16 copies. So just make sure you have all the copies that you need when you go into class. Thank you.
Nutrients are good for me. Some help me do and some help me be. Working all together to keep me healthy.
Hi, I'm Tammy Culpepper. I work for the University of Missouri Extension through the Family Nutrition Education Program. The lesson I'm going to talk about today is from the 5th grade curriculum. It is the fruit lesson, but it's one of the other activities in the fruit lesson, lesson 6. Has to do with mission breakfast statements. I'm a big time visual learner, and I find that a lot of kids are too. So I usually always make sure that I have visuals with me. So make sure that you have your fruit cards with you. This is a great way of just pointing out different fruits to them. There's bananas, blueberries, strawberries, all the different ones in it. And it also is just a big way for communications for them to realize all the different fruits. I usually always try to have a couple unusual ones in there that maybe they haven't seen, just to point out to. It's also a good way to just talk to them. Have you ever tried this one or this one? Or how did you try it? Frozen, fresh, how have you had it? So it's, not only is it a visual thing, but it's also good communications with them as well. I find that on the My Plate, half your plate is supposed to be fruits and vegetables. And I find that everybody loves fruit, it's just that we don't always eat fruit. So we discuss reasons why people do not eat fruit. Cost reasons, parents haven't bought it, different factors like that. One of the activities though is this mission breakfast statement. You'll see there's dotted lines on here. You actually just cut these out just like this, and it gives the kids something to talk about and a little activity to do. Now, personally, if you laminate them, they last longer, so you can reuse them over and over in your 5th grade classes. What it is it just gives one statement, and then it asks you how you would add fruit to this. One of the first ones is, I love low-fat yogurt, plain or fruit flavored. That's my breakfast on most days. So that's their statement. Then they can discuss, how would you add fruit to this breakfast? You'll get all different answers, from adding fruit to cereal to just eating an apple or banana, things that other kids have done. I find they learn from each other just as well, because one child may have tried something that another one had never thought of trying. So this little activity is a fun activity for them, but also gets the point across. Breakfast is important, but also that fruit added to breakfast is a great idea also. We want to also encourage them to realize they need 3 food groups for breakfast, and so with grains usually always being one of them, it's easy to add that fruit for a second food group, or even yogurt for the third food group. Making sure they understand if they can get 3 food groups in for breakfast, it's a great start. Thank you very much for listening. I hope this has helped you. I really enjoy this curriculum. It's one of my favorite ones. 5th grade kids seem to interact very well and want to learn more about it. Thank you.
Do your body right. Make your day a better day.
Hello, my name is Tammy Culpepper. I work for MU Extension through the Family Nutrition Education Program. This is April Miller here with me today. We're going to demonstrate one of the physical activity lessons. It's in the 5th grade curriculum. It's the physical activity lesson with the nutrition part with the fruit lesson, lesson 6. Now with this lesson, it actually gives you the examples that you can use if you would like on things to do. However, once you get used to this, you won't even be looking at this. You'll have them memorized or you'll make up your own. What you're going to do is you're going to be telling kids, depending on a couple different things, they'll do different directions. So some of your kids may be doing jumping jacks, while some of the kids might be doing running in place. It just kind of depends. So I thought we would demonstrate just a few for you for right now. First one, if you had breakfast this morning, jump up and down. If you had fruit for lunch, stand on one foot. If you did not have fruit for lunch, you have to run in place. If you had protein for dinner last night, jump up and down. If you did not have protein, you have to march. And as you would continue on with different activities. Thank you, April. You may make up some as you go. Also, I found letting the kids do it helps out also. So usually before I start, I will tell the kids that if they want, they do not have to, they can come up and take my place and give directions as well. I will tell them to go ahead and be prepared, so get in their mind some different activities they can ask, like if you drank milk for dinner, or if you didn't drink milk for dinner, do something else. So once I get about 4 or 5 of these in where they've kind of seen how it goes, I will usually pick a child. I'll ask who wants to come up, pick a child and have them come up and stand beside me, and they will get to participate by giving directions. I usually stay right here with them so that if they kind of get stuck or get a little bit unsure what to ask, I'll just step in and say, like, let's say they say, if you drank milk last night but they can't remember what to do, I might say march in place or jog in place or jump up and down. I may throw something out there for them to help them out as well. I usually always participate with the physical activity to show them how important it is for adults also. There are some times when it makes it a little more difficult, like this one, when you're trying to think of some and do them, but it's usually pretty easy and pretty fun. If you goof up and do the wrong one, it's no big deal because it's a physical activity. So just have fun with it, relax, let the kids enjoy it also. The only thing I usually do point out is that they have to be in control of their bodies, especially when you're talking 5th grade. Some of the boys and girls sometimes get where they want a bigger area. I usually tell them they have to stay in their space that they are in, which is usually right by their desk. Thank you very much. I hope this will be helpful. Thank you.
The 6th grade Show Me Nutrition curriculum is Digging Deeper. Which fast foods will you choose? Develops critical thinking skills about selecting fast foods based on their fat content. Which fast foods will you choose is a core activity. The physical activity Dance to the Music gives students a chance to get some physical activity that is fun and easy to do at home. Power nutrients are ingredients added to the tasting activity Be a Power Muncher. In this activity, students will prepare and taste an easy snack containing such power nutrients as bite-sized whole grain cereal like oat, corn, rice, or wheat squares, and roasted peanuts and pretzels.
My name is April Miller, and I'm with the University of Missouri Extension Family Nutrition Education Program. I work out of Howard and Sheridan counties, and I am doing the 6th grade lesson, Power Up with Breakfast, teaching you guys how to set up a food demo in the classroom. One thing that I would double check would be not to do the food tasting on the first day of your lesson, because you do not know what your capabilities are of what's in the classroom for you to use, or if the school will even allow the food tasting. Another thing you should get before anything is your food allergy list from your school nurse, or even the school secretary should have that on file. Whenever I do my food tastings, I do them on the very last day of class, and here's how I would set it up. I would make sure I would have the Germex, or if your kids have a sink in the classroom, make sure everybody washes their hands with warm soap and water, or you can use a wipe because they do have alcohol in them. After we would use the Germex or the wipes or the sink, we would start talking about how to set up your food tasting. Now, some food tastings can be set up prior to you entering the classroom, which is what I like to do. Others can be set up in the classroom, which I have done also. Today we're going to do the Power Up with Breakfast. Make sure you have all of your ingredients with you whenever you do your lesson. Also, make sure you keep your cold food cold using a cooler, so that way it stays cold. You may put ice on top of it, that way it does stay cold and does not spoil. If you do not have a sink in your classroom, we use a bowl and fill it with warm water and soap. That way any utensils that need to be washed can be washed right here on site. Then all of my ingredients, I have sugar and bread and cinnamon and an apple. We need to make sure the apple is washed prior to using. I do this in the classroom if there is a sink. If not, I prepare it beforehand. Then we make sure we have all of our utensils to do. Measuring cups, spoons, and a knife, and a safe cutting board. This specific lesson I would wait to do once I know what's in my classroom, because it does require an oven. If you do not have the capabilities of using an oven, I suggest you modify this like it shows in the curriculum, which you actually toast your bread prior to serving it. If I was doing this, I would let the kids come up around me while I show them how to do it and let them make their own. If it was a bigger class, I would possibly group them together to do this. When grouping the kids, I would actually pair them up, and each group does one slice of bread, and then we cut it in half for them to share. Once everything is completed, I would make sure that all my utensils were washed properly and then placed back in, all cold food placed back in the cooler for the next class, and make sure everything is cleaned up. The reason we incorporate food tastings in our curriculum is that way it widens the kids' perspective of foods. We like to do food tastings for foods that they may have never have tried, or things that they may have in their own house that they don't know how to cook or prepare for them to eat, and this shows them how they can do it themselves. It also gives them a wider variety of foods to eat, and they take those wider variety of foods home to their parents or grandparents and tell them that they've tried this vegetable or fruit in the classroom and that they would like to have it at home. And then it gets the parents and the whoever caretaker involved also in them broadening their foods. Thanks for watching, and I hope you find the food demonstration helpful.
We were going to demonstrate how to do the fruit salad, the healthy snacks part that's in lesson 7. And in your worksheets, this would be back in handouts, page 28. So get that out, we're going to kind of go over this with you and kind of the idea of what we want the students to do. So what we've done is take cotton balls and we've made them different colors to represent the fruit. You know, if we bought all this fruit and tried to make the fruits out, it'd be very expensive. So we're using cotton balls, and you just dye them with a little bit of food coloring. We've put a baggie with all the purple ones in for everybody because we thought the purple would be the hardest to find of the food colors. And so we made a little baggie of the purple ones for everybody. So that should be in your set of supplies that came at your table. We've done the little baggies with the different types of cotton balls with a little picture on the inside. When you actually do it, you have pictures that you don't have to find on the computer. These are already in your handouts, fresh fruits and vegetables set. So what you'll need is a picture of an apple, and it's going to fit in a bigger bag. So yours are going to be bigger bags compared to what we had. So you need a picture of a watermelon, the raisins, cantaloupe, blackberries instead of blueberries, raspberries, oranges, grapes, and apples. And those are all in your fresh fruit handouts that you have, the color fresh fruits. So you can just take those out and then put your cotton balls in there, and then that way the students know what this is supposed to represent. So what we're going to do is talk about fruit. We remember from the lesson before, fruit doesn't have any fats. We don't have to worry about the fat content, and that's why it's so healthy for us. That's also why my plate says, you know, make half your plate fruits and vegetables. So what we're going to do is we put little cards in each baggie so the students would be able to tell what fruit it represents. There is one change to the lesson plan that happened in the printing process. You want to make sure that your blueberry bag, right, is represented by blackberries. So you might want to change that. It says the blackberries on the worksheet, but when you're doing this in class, you might go through the lesson and cross out blueberries and put blackberries so that you don't forget about that. Okay, so what we're going to do, you would have students come up in pairs and give them a little bag of fruit. All right, they would go back. One of them would take the cotton ball out of the bag, and the other one would tell the class what fruit it represents. So the green cotton ball is going to be the watermelon. So as each pair of students come up, then we're going to put it into our bowl that we're going to mix it with. All right. What we're trying to explain to people is that we're looking at the nutrition facts label on, let's say, a can of fruit salad. So we're going to have the students come up and tell the class what type of fruit they have and how many there are of each one. So in this case, this one represents the raspberries. So the pair of students would come up, one would say this is raspberries, and we have two. Okay? As they add the fruit to the mixing bowl, or whatever bowl you're using, you want to make sure that you fill this in on the worksheet. So we just did the number 2, which is the raspberries. So you would have students fill in their blank with the number 2. Okay? Then we just would do that with each fruit. This one represents the watermelon. There's only one. We're going to add it to the bowl. Okay? And we just keep doing this with all of the fruits. Okay? Here's the raisins. And remember, the blueberries are going to be represented by blackberries. Add all that. As they come up, the students need to tell them how many cotton balls are in each bag. All right, for instance, the blueberries or the blackberries have 7. Okay, and we put in the raisins, there's 3. Okay, this one's the orange. Orange has 4. Yeah, 4. Okay, grapes. And as the students are telling the rest of the class how many there are, then they need to write it down. Here's the purple. There's 5 of the purple. 6 of the cantaloupe. And then our apple, which is has the most, with 8. Okay, got all the little balls. Now what we're going to do is just take this and we're going to stir it up just like we would with regular fruit salad until it's mixed up really well. Okay, now you want to have 6 other students who didn't help you with the cotton balls. Pick 6 other students and they can come up and they can measure out what a serving is. Now if they look at their serving size of fruit, a serving size would be a half a cup. So we've got now 6 half cups, and we're going to find out how many servings are in this container. All right, servings in a container, there's usually more. They'll tell you how much one serving is and then you figure out from that what would be in a container. So we're going to take about 6 cotton balls. Okay, that's 1/2 cup. And we would just have another student come up and then add their cotton balls. Basically, they're going to put 6 to 1/2 cup. What we're trying to get them to figure out is how did we come up with that servings in a container. Oops. Can't get hold of them. Okay, so now we would count the cups. All right, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This would be how many servings we had to have of this container of fruit salad. So we have 6 servings per container. So on the second line where it says servings per container, they're going to write the number 6. Okay. Total fat, because fruit is so good for you, it doesn't have any fat. Most fruits are fat-free, so we have 0 for the amount of fat, 0 grams. Sugar, fruits do have a lot of natural sugar. All of these together would have 12 grams of sugar. Okay. So what we're really trying to point out is the serving size and the servings per container. Okay. And so when they're done, fill in their worksheet. They can put all this back into your bowl, and that's pretty much it. Answer any questions that might come up.
Challenges and Choices, the 7th and 8th grade curriculums, are individualized curriculums that can also be combined into a single curriculum. Eating disorders are explored in the core activity, Celebrity Issues. The activity encourages students to think critically about the media coverage of eating disorders. Everyone is always looking for a way to fit in exercise. In the physical activity, Can You Fit It In?, students will no longer have to look. They will recognize how to find time in their day to incorporate exercise, and will learn the benefits of participating in some type of regular exercise. Nutty Banana Muffins is a tasting and baking activity you can do with your students. It is also a great recipe for students and their parents to prepare and enjoy together.
Hello, I'm Tammy Culpepper. I work for MU Extension through the Family Nutrition Education Program. The lesson I'm talking about today is 8th grade lesson, Choices and Challenges, lesson 6. Has a lot to do with portion sizes and teaching them about supersizing. 8th grade is a great bunch to deal with in talking about this, but I've also found that they're big time visual learners. So the more props you can have, the better off they are. Starting with the display I have up here. Sometimes you have to take information that you might have in another curriculum that might fit as well. The actual curriculum states using French fries, but I already had the potato chips that had the 1 ounce and the 3 ounce, and 8th graders relate very well to potato chips, so it worked just the same in showing the different amount of fats. It shows that the 1 ounce had about 7 grams of fat, the 3 ounce had 24.5. Just showing them that there's a huge difference. Sometimes eating more isn't necessarily the better way to go. These are props that a lot of times you will have to make. In the 8th grade curriculum, it actually states how to make the fat tubes. Now sometimes we do them a little bit different among the state, might use a different material, but they're basically all done the same way. When it comes to the sugar, using different size cups just to show, and cans, most of our curriculum has that already for you as the information. You just have to measure it out and show them. I've found that about the best way to get it in their heads is to actually measure it for them. So if you actually take a spoon and show them the cup size and have the sugar and actually spoon out the sugar into the cup and count them out with them, like 1, 2, 3, 4, so on until you get to 24 teaspoons. you will find that it's a big visual for them. I've also taken it and just dumped it in their hands. And when dumping in their hands, they get a real idea of how much sugar that actually is. A lot of times it's just what works best for you, how your class is going to relate to it. But I can tell you visuals are a big part of the middle school age. They relate very well to it. There's also a handout that says no to supersized portions. This one here goes over them actually doing the math themselves, figuring out how many teaspoons of sugar is in the soda or how many grams of fat that's in the French fries. So this is a good handout visual. I usually always have them do it with a partner. That way if one person is not quite as strong in that area, they have a partner to work with. After they do this one is a good time then to reinforce and actually do the measuring that they have done on the worksheet. Just keep in mind, have a good time with it because it's really a lot of fun. One thing I have found out though, they probably won't eat as many potato chips right after you do this and they actually see how much fat. And that's kind of the whole point of the lesson. Smaller sometimes can be better. The main part of it is just have some fun with this particular lesson. You may choose something else to actually have them measure the fat in. They may choose something that they eat more commonly. But the curriculum itself is just to point out on the supersized portions the difference in just cutting to a smaller size. Thank you very much. I hope this will be helpful for you.
For this project, we're on page 5-6 in the lesson 5, which is on the milk, and we're just going to explain to you how to do this kind of measurement thing that we're going to do with the students. The students will need the handout that has the maize on one side and the healthy milk choice on the other side. We're going to be working on the healthy milk choice first. Okay, on here there are different types of cartons. They have one for whole milk, 2%, 1%, and for skim. We're going to measure this out and make a sample so they can kind of see how much fat is actually in milk. Because as you're drinking milk and stuff, there are different types of milk and there are different ones that are better for your health than others. Okay, so first we're going to start with the whole milk, which is going to be represented in this cup. If you look on your page, we're on page 5-6, and we're looking at the pretend whole milk demonstration. I've already went ahead and measured out some water, a cup of water into each one of these cups, so they're all the same. That's what this is sitting here for. And then we have our yellow food coloring, and you need 1/4 of a teaspoon and a whole teaspoon for this. Okay, if you read down through the whole milk demonstration, basically what you need to do is go to the top of the next page and it says measure 2 teaspoons of yellow food coloring into the cup labeled whole milk. So that's what I'm going to do. Get it open here. So 2 teaspoons. 1, 2. Okay, and stir it just a little bit. Okay, that gives the students an idea of how much fat is in that milk because this is whole milk. It's very dark in color. They wouldn't actually be able to see this in their own milk because the milk has been homogenized or pasteurized. So when they homogenize, they break up the milk fat, and so it's distributed through the milk. And so they're not going to see actual little pieces of fat. So that's a whole milk. Okay, 2% is next. 2%, you do measure 1 teaspoon. Okay, we stirred it just a little bit. You can tell already that 1 is a little bit lighter than the whole milk, the 2%. And that's because it doesn't have as much fat. We didn't add as much fat or yellow food coloring to it, so it's getting lighter. Okay, for the 1%, you're going to measure out 1/2 teaspoon. Okay, give it a little stir. Okay, if you look, you can tell it's already getting a little bit lighter. Right? Hopefully students are getting the premise that the less milk there is, the lighter the color is going to be. All right, and then for the last one, the fat-free, because it has no fat, it's fat-free, you don't add any coloring to it, so it stays clear. Right? So we have the fat-free, a little bit of fat, more, and then the whole milk that has the most amount of fat. So hopefully when you're talking about this, the students can tell that, if you were wanting to make a drink choice that would be healthy, you'd want to go with the fat-free or the 1%. Right? The less the percent, the less fat that they're going to have. out everything into our cups and stuff, we're going to kind of go over the worksheet a little bit so everybody understands. This is H17. It's in your handout section in the back of the book. This talks about the different types of milk, and that's what we just did with our glasses of water and our food coloring to show how much milk is in each type of milk. So in the first one where it says whole milk, it has 4% milk fat. And so what we want to do is have the students fill out the line where it says calories. They're going to put 150, okay, because there's 150 calories per serving of milk. They will also take their pencil or their crayon, whichever they're using, and color all 4 labels all the way up to the 4th line. So that shows that's how much fat's in it. Same thing is done with the 2% milk, except when they color it in, they're only coloring up to the 2nd line. The easiest way to remember this is to just count the lines and then have the kids color up. So if it's 2%, then they're going to color up to the 2nd line. Their calorie content's 125 per serving. So they would fill that in on the line down here. 1%, same thing. Since it's only 1%, they're going to color up to the 1st line. For the calorie content, they're going to put 100 calories. And then for skim milk, because there is no fat in it, they're not going to have any lines to color, plus there's 0 calories as far as coming from fat. So, and then down here you ask them the question, which one would be the healthiest choice? And hopefully they're going to think, you know, skim milk or at least 1% instead of the whole milk, because they're getting less fat content.
Nutrients are good for me. Some help me do and some help me be.
Show Me Nutrition is sold and used across the nation in 49 states. Show Me Nutrition is a tasty way to learn. Materials needed to teach Show Me Nutrition can be ordered from University of Missouri Extension's publications at www.extension.missouri.edu. Family Nutrition Education Programs, providing nutrition and life skills for Missouri families.
Some help me run or jump and grow. Others keep me feeling like a pro. Nutrients are good for me. Some help me do and some help me be. Working all together to keep